Who are some other photographers you admire? There are so many that this was a really tough question, and I didn't want to like list 10 and then leave off 20 that I like just as much, but I also don't want to just sit here and rattle off 50 names of people. So what I did is I just picked 2 people. I picked for a nature photographer that I admire and follow his work and try and kind of derive some inspiration from him, and that's Vincent Munier, and he's fantastic. So I encourage you to check out his work. And then for a non-nature photographer, my favorite is Elliot Erwitt. And I'm trying to think how to put what I love about his work. I kind of love, it's quirky and sometimes whimsical, maybe isn't the right word, but I connect with his work, and I really appreciate looking at his stuff and studying it, and I think he does an amazing job. So I would also encourage you to check out Elliot Erwitt's work. Even though I do primarily nature and wildlife, I'm very interested in all other forms of photography as art, and I enjoy looking at other people's stuff. And Elliot Erwitt, that's another good one to check out. Similar question, who are some other YouTubers that I follow? So I just looked through my recently watched list on YouTubers. There's a bunch there, but here are a handful that seem to kind of come up. Sean Tucker, again, not a nature and wildlife guy, but excellent photographer, really excellent videographer, super thoughtful. Anyway, I really enjoy his videos. I think he's great. Morton Hilmer, he's a wildlife guy. He's awesome. He's really fun to watch. Again, makes such great videos. Gary Goff, he's a Brit, and I like him a lot. He's super entertaining. He's doing a great job. Casey Neistat, he's like the king of vlogging, so I gotta watch him do that. Ben Horn, he's a large format photographer. I enjoy kind of watching his process. It's so different than mine, and he's super knowledgeable and does a great job. I think the most interesting thing about watching him is his process and how different it is from my own. So I'm kind of hoping to learn some stuff and get some perspective on other ways to do photography and to think about photography. He does a great job. Bob Ross, that's right, the Bob Ross. You know, the hair and the paints and everything. I seem to watch some Bob Ross. Don't judge me on that. Evan Ranft, I'm not even sure how you pronounce his last name. Super interesting. He's great personality, great videography, great vlogging style. I love watching his stuff. And then, of course, Thomas. Everybody watches Thomas Heaton, right? Yeah, he does a great job. Doesn't need to be said. All right. Will you do an owl workshop? And that's a tough question, and the answer is no. The reason I won't do an owl workshop is I don't want to have a bunch of pissed off clients because the owls aren't cooperating. And while it seems like I can go out and find owls and make beautiful photographs whenever I want to, that is not even close to being the case. I just post those videos, but you know, the times I spent, I go for weeks and months without seeing owls sometimes. And if I had an owl workshop scheduled and I couldn't find an owl, I would have a group of really angry people. And I just can't guarantee that I would be able to find owls and give people good opportunities to where they would, have a great time. And I wouldn't feel comfortable with, getting paid to do that. A couple other complications are here in Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Parks. You need to operate with a permit to be able to guide people, and those permits are very restrictive on where and how you can take people into the backcountry. And to really, I think, do an effective owl photography workshop, you'd have to be in the backcountry and far enough away from the roads that you wouldn't attract a bunch of attention, and that you'd be able to be respectful of the owls and their habitat. And so there's just a bunch of reasons why I wouldn't do an owl workshop here. If I had a more guaranteed situation with some nesting owls, where I could access them in a responsible way, then I would certainly be, I'd love to do a workshop, be able to teach people, how to photograph owls both technically and ethically and artistically. But I don't have that situation available to me here where I could consistently guarantee owls to photograph. So owl workshop probably not going to happen for me. Hey, I look a little bit different. I didn't plan it this way, but I just happen to have a different orange shirt on than what I've had so far in the video. But I wanted to jump back in here and cut in. I had a few more straggler questions come in that I thought I should answer. So that's what I'm going to do. Wearing a different shirt that happens to also be orange. I guess I like orange shirts, apparently. Anyway, let's jump in here. I had a question. Have you ever seen Bigfoot? Not yet, but maybe someday, right? I actually was just in Yellowstone this summer with my kids, and we were playing a little game where I would pay them like $1 for whoever finds the first bison today gets $1, or whoever sees the first bear gets $5. And I said, whoever finds Bigfoot gets $1,000. And they went, oh, $1,000. And believe me, they were looking, but we still didn't find it. Oh well. Okay, how long does it take to produce a YouTube video? Everyone's different. Like, these kind of videos are quicker to produce. There's not much editing, and I'm not putting together music and trying to time in the music and cut a story together and cut out, a bunch of irrelevant parts and just kind of stick to the basics and try and edit it to that, ideally like 10 to 14 minute window. So when I'm doing those in the field, my vlogs from the field, it's a considerable amount of editing. I'm certainly no expert. I have no formal training. I'm kind of self-taught on video editing with Final Cut Pro. I would say I spend quite a bit of time, 4 to 6 hours maybe per video. It's quite a bit. It's a lot of work, but it's pretty fun. What's my favorite part about YouTube? So I think my favorite part, I like a ton of things about it. I like the new challenge, both technically and creatively. It's fun for me. I like to challenge myself and do new things. It gives me a different kind of way to try and be creative using video. And I'm pretty sure I'm not very good at it yet, but I'm trying, and I'm certainly getting better. So as long as I'm improving, that's cool with me. I'm giving it a shot. I like being able to share both the video, my art. I like being able to share my art, and it's a great way to do that, both for the still photography and for the video. I definitely, a component of that is wanting to kind of inspire people to kind of appreciate photography and nature and wildlife and animals, and kind of inspire people to get outside and do photography and learn and improve. And so I think that's important to me as well. It's important, I think, for me to have an audience. I think most artists want to have an audience to share their work to. So this is another way for me to have an audience. And I appreciate it, as I mentioned, that I've kind of crossed that 5,000 subscriber barrier, which was a big one for me. I didn't think anybody would ever find this stuff interesting enough, or 5,000 people would, but it's awesome that people are digging it. I appreciate it. So having an audience is great. In terms of, what that audience, trying to make like a living with YouTube, I don't I don't feel that that's necessarily possible for me. There are certainly people that do it, and so it's certainly possible out there. I don't look at that as like a goal of mine. I certainly hope that my audience would help support kind of some of my endeavors with, supporting my workshops and, prints, and having an audience to try and sell like my book that I'm working on and those kind of things in the future. It's important, but that's certainly not why I started it. But it's a component of the business side of things for sure. Next question was, what would you do if you came face to face with a bear? It totally depends. I have come face to face with bears many times, and it's always been very undramatic. So most of the time it's stay calm, back away slowly, talk to the bear, make sure it understands that you're not prey and that you're not a threat. And, I would suggest spending some more time Googling this from experts. Don't rely just on my advice here, but I think that in general, the advice is a black bear attacking you is probably predatory and you need to fight back. A grizzly bear attacking you is probably defensive, and you probably need to kind of do that, curl up in a ball, try and protect yourself, and hopefully it stops the attack once it realizes that you're either not a threat or not its normal prey. So I think those are kind of the two big guidelines, but in general, you don't want to come face to face with a bear. You don't want to startle a bear for sure. So you want to be out there in the woods doing the normal things, traveling in groups, making noises, making sure that the bear is aware that you're out there and that you're not a threat. So spend some time researching that if you're going into the field. Don't just rely on this advice. There's more to it than what I'm saying. But definitely carry bear spray, and not only carry it, but have it immediately on you, like boom, right there in your pocket, somewhere where you can get it out in that quick. Like there's a bear here, that quick, you need to be able to have it out. I would even suggest kind of spending the money. If you find an old canister that's expired or something, shoot it off. There are even places that do little test runs to show you how far it sprays, but get a feel for, when you hit that button, what it's going to be like, how far that's going to spray, and how long you have to spray. Because I've done that and I was surprised by how close you really have to be to the bear to be effective, to deploy it. And you don't have a whole lot of, time. You got a few seconds. So I would suggest practicing that with your bear spray. And hopefully you never have to use it. I haven't yet. And hopefully I never do. And I have had a lot of bear sightings and run-ins with bears in the woods, and so far everything's cool. Bears generally don't want anything to do with people. Question is, how often do you go out for photography, and how much are you vlogging? So kind of a part of that question was how much of that time are you scouting and how much of that time are you actually shooting? So I go out a lot. I try and get out 5 days a week, and that's certainly not all day, but I need to be out in the field like five times a week, whether it's just for a few hours at sunrise, a few hours at sunset, maybe an all-day thing, but generally it's for a few hours at the kind of prime time of the day for photography. And so I'm out there. I'd love to do it 7 days a week, but that's not realistic. So I'm out there, I'd say average 5 times a week. And I'm only vlogging. I make a video maybe probably twice a week. I try and make a video. Usually only one of those works and actually becomes a finished video, because so oftentimes when I start making a video and a story never actually evolves to the point where it would make an interesting video. And so I have to kind of abandon that day's footage. And, once in a while I get an actual story together and then I can make a video for it. And hours spent scouting versus shooting. Actual time spent shooting, unfortunately, is quite limited. Most of the time is spent driving and hiking and looking for wildlife and looking for locations and waiting for activity, wildlife activity, waiting for the light, waiting for the weather, those kind of things. It's a majority of the time is spent scouting, if that's what you want to call it, doing recon and waiting. And then actual shooting time is a very small percentage of the time, usually, for the style of photography that I do with nature, landscape, and wildlife. And while I'm out shooting, I almost always prioritize the photography and making still photographs versus making videos. So the videos are fun, and I want to have good, decent quality, interesting video for the vlogs. My top priority, definitely while I'm out there, is to make compelling photographs. So sometimes that comes at the expense of the video story itself, but for now, my priority is photography, and that obviously can evolve and change over time. But in my mind, I'd rather make a great photograph than make a great video clip, if that makes sense. And then a big one a lot of people asked was, what is your day job? How do you afford all that equipment? How do you have the time to do all this photography and videography? And the short answer is my day job now is photography. So it hasn't always been that way. I've had a few different careers in my life. First one being a mechanical engineer. So I worked as a professional engineer for quite a few years. And then my next career after that was I started a company to do product design and development, and did that for quite a few years. And then I moved into the bar and restaurant business and did that for quite a few years. So during, part of that time, photography was definitely a passion and not a business or a job. But that's what I've transitioned into now, into photography being my job. So during those previous careers, I've had some good successes. I've certainly had some failures too. Unfortunately, I had one major business disaster recently, but I'm trying to recover from that, and now doing work that I really enjoy and trying to make all that work financially. So that's a bit of a work in progress, and we'll see how it ends up, but I'm going to do my best and continue to have some side gigs as well that I kind of always like to have other projects going at the same time. So anyway, with that being kind of the cut-in version now with some straggler questions that I wanted to get answered, I will transition back to the original orange shirt that I was wearing to finish off the remainder of the questions for this video of Ask Me Stuff. Okay, back to the other orange shirt now. I hope I was able to answer most of your questions. Some of the ones that I knew I couldn't really answer in the Q&A, I tried to respond in the thread of the last video and to people directly via email. Thank you so much for the email questions as well. So I'll do it again another time if you guys want some more. But again, I so appreciate all the comments and the nice comments and the questions and people being interested and people appreciating what I'm doing. It's really fun, and I'm enjoying the process and enjoying the ride here. So thanks again for the over 5,000 subscribers, which was kind of the original impetus of doing a Ask Me Stuff episode here. So again, thank you so much and have a great day, and I'll do another actual proper vlog again soon. All right, take care.